Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Open BIM and why we in Statsbygg invest in it. I can say that I'm actually Danish, so it's a bit also a privilege for me to join this conference. It's been very interesting. I've been listening to you. So just briefly about myself. I'm originally an architect, and for the last 2 decades I worked with BIM. For the last 10 years solely with information management. In Statsbygg, I'm leader of the BIM Group and also project manager for developing the solution that I'm going to talk a little bit about later, that we call Statsbygg's BIM requirements. Also work with BIM standardization in both Norway and in Europe. I have also been former managing director for buildingSMART Norway. That's a few years back. Here. I just want to give you a brief background about who Statsbygg is, so you understand what kind of organization we are and what our focus is. We are a public governmental body, and our responsibility is to provide buildings that are not available in the commercial market. So it's special buildings for all the government's bodies. We have 5 locations around in Norway and are around a little less than 900 people. We actually represent the entire life cycle of building projects, from early stage consultants for whether to build or not. We act as clients if you are going to build, and we also maintain and operate buildings. And of course, we have a great large portfolio of estates that we develop, properties that we develop. So we have around approximately 2,300 buildings, small and large, that we operate and develop and maintain, and around Norway and also abroad. So I will start to give you just an example to how we work with Open BIM standards in order to require Open BIM. So this has been central for us. A background for this is that we are committed to digitalization, not just BIM, but digitalization in a wider perspective. BIM is, of course, an important part of this. We have been co-authoring the Norwegian digital roadmap goals together with other large client and authorities organization in Norway, and we have pretty much adopted the UK government BIM goals with increased or lower cost, lower emissions, faster delivery, and improvement in export. So and when you look at those percentages, it's important for you to understand that these percentages is, of course, of the turnover in the specific project stage. So we've been very focused on using BIM in the design stage. It's quite natural because in the design stage, this is where the majority of the information and the geometry of the BIM is produced. So that's quite normal, but it's definitely not where the majority of the turnover of a construction project and a building in its life cycle is done. So in order to gain the effect of digitalization, we need to look where's the large turnover, and it's in the construction phase for production and the facility management, operational maintenance, or just operational states, and we need to do that. Now that is also interesting because information that may be produced in the design stage may not actually create value for those people working there. Maybe it's actually meant to create value for production or in the operational stage. And so we need to have a focus on a life cycle even when we work in the single stage. And it means that we need to have a large amount of standardization. So we know that depending on which contractor or designers or which kind of project that we're using, we can depend on the information that is produced. That's the background of the example I'm going to show you. Statsbygg has required BIM for 10 years now, and when we look at what we have got, that was one of the first things I did when I started 1.5 years ago, to see what is the status of the models that we have. And we see that actually not a lot of projects within the last 10 years have actually not delivered anything. And if they have actually not delivered all models from all the main disciplinary architect, structural, MEP. Those models that we do get, they deviate quite substantially from our standard BIM requirements. It may not mean that the information is not there, but it means that it can be put other places, which can be fine within a project, but can be a large problem when you see it in a life cycle perspective and you want to use the information in the models in operational stage across the projects. Then we have to automatically search that information across all the models. So this really has to change. For that reason, for quite some years, also before I started in buildingSMART, even though I would say that this solution, even though before I started Statsbygg, this solution that I'm about to show you is actually something we started working with in buildingSMART Norway when I was managing director there. But in Statsbygg, we've actually taken all the requirements and put them into, majority of them, put them into a database, very specifically on object classes and what kind of information that has to be delivered, by whom and when. We have some few general requirements, basic rules that has to be served, but the majority of the requirements, they are in a database. And we have much less focus now on guidance than we had like 10 years ago when the first BIM manual was produced, because the industry now actually know better than us how to model and work together. So less guidance, more focus on requirements. This is just a peek into the database in itself, the setup, how you work with requirements. It's just a screenshot. So you see the who in the top. I don't know if you can see it in the audience, but on the left you have the object classes with identification, some geometry requirements, and a long list of possible requirements with properties that you can choose or not choose, depending on what you want. We have the how in the middle, so I've seen each translation. This is how we want it. And the columns on your right are the project stages or the milestones for deliveries, when things has to be ready, and the X's means that something has to be delivered, if relevant for the specific project. These requirements that we have generated here, they are generic. So it's kind of the background. And in many cases, they're used directly. But still, in all projects, when you start a new project, you take a copy of the generic requirement in the database and make a project-specific copy. You can make some adjustments on many different levels, actually. And what is not so new or remarkable is that of course, you can have a human readable report. You can both go in and look into the database, but you can also just make a report. The designers can work with the modeling tools and deliver their IC. What is new here is that you can also generate an MD-XML, simply because the requirements now are so specific. So we have developed together with SimpleBIM in Finland an add-in that's capable of reading the MD-XML file and assess and report on deviation on the IFC deliverables with BCA. So this is the triad of BIM, where we use three documentations within IFC documentation to work with to have this process working. So with a bit of education, we can train the project and the project team to do this by themselves. It's not us as a client who's doing it. They are actually doing it, and only when you have no deviations left, then we actually receive the BIM deliveries. Some cases we may do some testing before it's handed over to operation. We're working on to set in place a quality assurance, but basically it's all the job has to be done by the project team. The next two is just some screenshots. You can see here how you can actually download and add an add-on in the XML. This is available for everyone. We have funded the development of it, but it's available to everyone buying a license of Single BIM, and it's updated continuously together with the Single BIM. And first, when it's done, you can check the model of all the information content. This is not geometry. You will still use, for example, the solution like Solibri and Navisworks or other for geometry, but for information, focus on information. This is a very good tool for us. At this stage, it does not check or register for the quality of the values that are put into the properties. This is something that we're working on. It is possible, but it's a huge work to make either allow syntax, describe that, specify that, or specify allowed values for each and every kind of information we put in there. It still gives you very good indication if you have a lot of errors where you're on the project. But this is actually, we have seen in the first project that it's a very good also project management tool. As you see for allocating resources, it gives a very good indication where you are on the project. So for the first project, this has been operational for 9 months now, since January. And the first project, even both large and actually we also have some small projects. The one that is pictured here on your right is from an article, the Samic Cultural Center, quite far up north in Norway. It's very successful implementation, small project, but with a few hours of training, they were able to do this by themselves, and we saw they have a much better structure of the model from the beginning, and which resulted also in much better communication with using the models between both the designers and also the turnkey contractor. So this has been very successful. Now, I have also been asked to tell a bit about why we invest we're committed to invest in Open BIM, and what's the return investment for us. And I actually have 8 perspectives. The first perspective is competition, actually 2 first perspectives. And the first is competition in services, and we strongly believe that free competition, regardless of technical platforms, give us the most answers and the best concept for the solution that we require. Of course, we are also, as a public entity or public body, bound by law that we cannot favor somebody to others. And the case, I'm sorry, it's in Norwegian on your right, just show an example of a small municipality outside Bergen who actually broke that rule and made a Revit claim. Actually, they won this case on what I would call technicality. But the reason why I took it up is that they were actually sued or turned into there is a governmental body making those, it's a kind of appeal court for this kind of cases. If you favor somebody or put in some rules in a tender that favors somebody. And in this case they won it, but they are few and far between. The majority of public clients, they are very loyal to the EU regulations on how to tender rules. It's the same goes with technical solutions. I know that many of the solutions that you see here on the screen, solutions that we all use in Statsbygg, and some of them are very central to us. They have add-ons, plugins for some proprietary software today, but actually, I think many of them started or are still based on IC. And we wouldn't be there where we are today if we had not supported them and demanded the use of OpenBIM. So this is good learning from us, and we'll continue to do that for also for technical solutions as well. Having one standard I've seen to express our requirements is also very helpful for us when we are, because we only have to make one set of requirements. If we have proprietary formats and we want to have as broad as many solutions as possible, we might actually have to produce those requirements in more than one way and be more specific on how that should be delivered from the different solutions. So it makes it very easy for us to be very specific without being proprietary. So that is pretty much a no-brainer for us. It makes it easy for us. And still, we are capable of being precise. This is a screenshot again from our database. You can say once we have this set of standards, it also means that it's easier for us to work together with other clients and owners on what to require. Not so we require the same information, but that we have a framework on how we require the information. And for example, solutions like this database, at least Statsbygg and BIM Group is now using it. We also have collaboration with other, or talking about, but we're collaborating with it. And then we have a newly established user group with, I think, 10 or 12 client owners in buildingSMART Nordic, the client owner room, discussing these matters, of course. And digital twin is and use of BIM in facility management and operations is important issues, but also how to require information. And then we have the digital twin, as mentioned. I believe many of you already have good ideas of what the concept means to you. For us in Statsbygg, it means that the professionals from whomever they work should actually be able to work in the software they are familiar with, of course, as long as they're compatible with APIs into our systems. The BIM is just one of the kind of information that we store and maintain, and everything here should be able to be linked together. So in order to do that, we need the information in the model to be standardized. So this is another important point for us, that all the information in the digital twin has to be able to be accessed via the other applications. We cannot do that if the information is not reliable and where we want it to be. The Norwegian building authorities are at the moment working, and actually been working for quite a while, so it's relatively mature. It's on the pilot stage. A solution where you can actually use BIM for submitting for a building permit. And this is actually, on your right, is actually a screenshot from a pilot project that Statsbygg also worked with in Trondheim. And it works with the same basic functionality and as the BIM requirement database and the workflow I showed you earlier. They're just using another tool for assessing. They don't use simple BIM, they develop their own kind. And it really doesn't matter what it is, because it's the information and the workflow that's interesting. And since everything is based on open standard, it really doesn't matter which software you use. This is important for us because the submission stage is quite a big risk for us. If you get a no, the whole project can be postponed. And so actually being able to have rule sets that we can work with on our side before we submit, the same rule set as the authorities, will help us greatly. So it will make it much more transparent for us what will be approved and what not will be. And maybe also we know where we can use our efforts to get dispensations for specific rules. So this is important for us. Some would say that it's a bad thing that IC is not updated more often. You could also wish you had something more in it. But in the long-term state, it's actually a good thing because it means that we don't have to update our information in our archives so often as you would when we have proprietary formats. We still actually require proprietary formats because you don't have the same perimetry on geometry yet, and this is one of the things that we want to invest in and look into. So we can use actually IFC models solely as the archive format for us because it is much better suited for us. Of course, also because when you update it, the documentation of the format is also very good. It's transparent and open, so you can see which object classes and entities, identification, properties, classification that have been developed, which has been changed, and so on. So it's easier for us to understand. Otherwise, it's more of a black box when you update from one format to another in a proprietary format. And then, of course, it's important for us to know to look ahead and see what is actually, which direction is the development going, and working with open standards developed by buildingSMART means that we have a much better idea of what's happening in 5 and 10 years. And also, it's important. It's possible for us to participate and influence that direction, and that's one of the reasons why we are members of buildingSMART Norway and also participate and support projects in buildingSMART International. We have various roles all the time, but we have been actually supporting buildingSMART both international and Norway from the beginning, and that's very important for us because it's the right arena to work with our peers. So these were the kind of the 8 reasons why we invest in Open BIM. When we look a bit into the crystal ball, some of it are very near future, or we're working with it today, or some are a bit further down the road. But you can say that everything here is more or less linked to this digital twin concept of integrating all kinds of information, not just BIM, but BIM has to be fitting together cross-project into a life cycle information. And remember that for us it's approximately 2,300 buildings. Many of them actually are existing buildings, and we have a huge job ahead of us to register and at some level digitize those constructions so we can actually facilitate and maintain them on the same level. Interface with GIS is of course very important for us. It gives a good overview of both location, where they are, and there are many other perspectives into GIS. It's actually commonly used in all new projects today using BIM, that it's duplicated into the model. And of course also to working together with infrastructure, so it's the information of the model of the building is not in a vacuum, but it's actually part of a terrain, and you have a huge amount of infrastructure information that's already available. We are actually working now with implementing the ISO standard 9650, especially the part on how to procure and appoint information deliverables. And I cannot say when we are going to implement it, but it's something we work with. The first draft shall be ready internally for October. But we actually also, this is something we work together with our peers. For example, the railroad owner and client in Norway, is actually, we are working this in parallel, and there are also another infrastructure owner who are curious and interested in joining that work. So it's something we do together. Another perspective that is very important for us, and we see as a big hurdle for us today, is that the model is usually very good from the design stage, and during production, there tend to be more focus on drawings, and a lot of the decisions and changes that are made on the project in design and properties are expressed in other ways, typically drawings or just messages or whatever, emails, but it's not documented in the model. So in order for us to have models that are as built in the end for the handover to operation, that really represent the building, that have value for operation and facility management, we need to have representative models. And we think that the key here is to focus less on drawing and more on model. And we have at least one pilot now to actually develop a user interface that is actually model-based, but with many of the same possibilities that you get from working with drawings, quick access to information, and so on. This is key for us. I think this actually will be a huge undertaking. There is the drawing is very integrated in the industry, and this will be it will take a lot of resources, but we have to get there, because otherwise I don't think we will ever get as good as built information for the handover to operation as we need to get. As mentioned before, we need to get better editable geometry, especially for long-term storage, and also between project stages. If there's a long break in one design stage to another, maybe you shift your designers because it has taken too long to go further with the project. We need to have editable geometry, so we're not that much depending on proprietary formats. It's something we struggle with in many projects. Another project that is developing that's going on in Europe and Norway is also very active now is product data templates that will lead to product data sheets for the product vendors. So we can get standardized, uniform, and also machine-readable product documentation available on your own language, but translatable from and to other languages. And one of the things that is completely crucial here is that we support and use ontologies like buildingSMART Data Dictionary or other kind of such ontologies that will help those product data templates to be translatable and machine readable. So this is about where we are now and which direction we're looking at. Finally, just to summarize what we see as our benefits, the main benefits in return of investment. For us, it opens up competition. We are capable to both require and get information, and we can get services and products across, not depending on any platform at all. So we can actually access the entire industry, and that's a huge value for us. The information that we get, and when it's based on open standards, we see that they're more robust, and also that we're able to both to participate in and influence how the open BIM standards are developed, or at least is clearly communicated what the intentions are. That is also important for us, so we can move in the same direction. And of course, we consider ourselves to be experts on what we do, but we're not experts in everything, so it's very crucial for us to meet our peers and listen to others and get new good ideas. So the Open BIM community is a fantastic place to be in, just like you're gathered here today. So with that, I thank you for your attention.